So let's begin. When it comes to throwing surface walkers, poppers, things like that, there's a lot of choices, a ton of choices, as you can see in my Busby box. And you know, when you get that many choices, if you've been paying attention to this channel for any length of time, you got to understand that there's no one rod that throws all those. That's why when I was saying I'm organizing my topwater rods, my Mirrodine rods, my swim bait rods, my jig rods, well, there's different rods that do different things, and then there's a lot of personal preference that goes into this. Remember, I'm a 6'5" guy, so I may use a little longer rod than most to be comfortable, but I've tried to make this video so that it pertains to everybody, you know. So let's start off with some of the smaller topwater plugs. So I'm going to talk about the Mirror Mullet, the Mirror Mullet XL, the Top Pup, the Sheep Pup. Here's a Top Pup right here. Check that out. Now that's a size that many of us throw, especially if you live in a pressured area. Now for me, I'm throwing this mostly on a 7-foot. This is a medium heavy, but moderate fast, if you will, spinning rod. And it's light, it does a good job. It's not gonna wear me out. I've got it packed with 10-pound diamond braid. And I have a short section, and when I say short, under 18 inches, 16 to 18 inches, so I can make a change or two, of 40-pound, well, let me bend down here and get it. 40-pound, this is 40-pound diamond illusion. This is a great high-end fluoro. It's hard to find right now, but it's getting easier all the time, trust me. So, using fluoro, I know a lot of you are like, well, why wouldn't you use mono? And you can. You can definitely use mono because it's a short section. These are aggressive fish. I know a lot of folks on topwater that they're not even going to use leader material. I just do it because I want a stiff material where those hooks don't want to tend to want to lay over that leader. This is a reel, 3000 XG, that picks up probably close to 37, I'm guessing. I'm gonna look on the box, but about 37 inches per handle turn. It's a 6.4 to 1 for those gear ratio tackle nerds out there. But every manufacturer has different spool, you know, diameters, so I'm not gonna focus too hard on the gear ratio. That pertains more to the casting gear guy rather than the spinning reel guy. The spinning reel guy should be interested in turns per inch. It is the time to have a faster reel. So having an XG versus maybe one of the HGs in the Shimano series, this is going to be a better choice. Now, for me, this rod throws everything basically well between maybe 3/16 all the way up to close to 3/4. After 3/4, this rod's taxed a little bit too much. But it's the perfect rod overall at 7 feet long. Now, many of you may want to throw a 6'9", a 6'10", because maybe you're a little shorter physically and you like working the rod tip down if you're in a skiff and you're lower to the water. It doesn't matter so much if you're in a center console where the deck is a little higher, or if you're working it up because you're in a kayak or wade fishing. But in a skiff, you may want that downward motion. But that 7-foot length will give you greater casting distance. But this rod is the right action, being that it's moderate fast when a trout or a redfish, or if you live in South Florida, even a snook comes up and pounds it. If he comes up there and smashes, just crushes that plug, because the reel's fast enough, you can get tight to him quick. Once you feel that rod load up, then you can come tight on him. And then you have the forgiveness of more of that moderate fast to fast action, which means it bends a little deeper in the blank down here. So this one probably 30% down into the blank, it's bending. And that give, if you will allow you to seat the hooks properly and still have a good fighting tool to whip that fish. So that's what I suggest for spinning gear. Now, what if you want to throw something big and heavy? This is where it really pays off to be a versatile angler and start learning how to make some of your lures work better for you with casting gear. So we're going to address that one next. That last rod was a Fitzgerald rod. It's the Aquafin series. It's 7 foot, medium heavy, moderate fast to fast. They have some other blanks that I really like for topwater fishing in their Versa series. You can look for something similar in that series that I think you'd really like for topwater fishing, especially in those small to medium sized topwaters. But let's just say you want to throw the big dogs, the new Duke dog, the Top Dog Junior, and even the full size, okay, Top Dog. These are bigger plugs. They cast farther. You're out to catch bigger fish. This is something I'm swinging out there at the end of the jetty. This is something where I see big Jack Crevalle boiling on the surface. I'm not gonna throw that spinning rod. I'm gonna throw a meat stick. Now for me, I can really air this rod out. This is one of my favorite rods. This is in the Fitzgerald all-purpose lineup. And this is a 7'3". This is a medium heavy, and it's a fast, but it bends, I'm gonna say 25, probably about 25% down into the blank. So I feel like I get good hook setting power, and I also get some excellent opportunities to get good, strong hook sets in big fish. So when I go out to Louisiana, this would be one of the rods that I would take to catch those bull reds. But mostly I like the 7'3". I know a lot of guys favor 7'4s and even 7.5 foot rods to cast these big plugs. But I like the big plug when it comes to casting distance. It's nothing for me to air this thing out. And because it's a medium heavy and a faster tip, you can wind up and just shoot it, and it's gonna easily go, I'm gonna say 40 yards. So that's pretty normal for this plug to travel that far. I've spooled it up with 30 pound. I would typically set this rod up with 40 or 50 pound braid, but I set this rod up because this is a Corrado 200. I set it up with 30 pound braid because I want more casting distance. Now it's 30 pound diamond, and I've got 40 pound, again, I've got that Illusion fluoro, and another short section. And to demonstrate more about why it has to be short is I want a belly, not a big belly in the line like that. I just want it to be short, where when you're walking the dog, you have that stiffness that you need so that front hook can't reach over and grab that leader material if it was too soft, yet you have enough of it, or not too much of it, I should say, where it would dampen and bring the nose down where it wouldn't want to walk easy. These baits walk extremely well. I mean, and MirrOlure has done a good job with giving you a variety of frequencies within their walking bait lineup, that, especially that new Duke dog, that gives you an opportunity to really catch some nice fish. So this is a very fast gear ratio, to get back to that lines per inch. Where I said earlier, it's more about the lines, the turn, or how much you take up per inch on that spinner. On this, it is about the gear ratio. Now, if you look here, you'll see that says 8.5. That's a fast, kind of a burner reel. And it picks up about 36 inches per handle turn. So very similar to what that spinning reel picks up. If I drop down to like 7.2 or 6.8, I can't catch up to that fish. Remember, when they come up and crush it, especially if it's a jack, comes up and crushes it, and he's running all of a sudden, and you can't catch up to him because you're only picking up 27 or 28 inches per handle turn. 36 inches per handle turn gives you a big advantage. So you want a much faster reel for your topwater setups. And like I said, if you really want to be able to throw these big baits, can you throw them, these big topwaters, on a spinning rod? You could, but good Lord, it's going to be so heavy. You're going to move up to a bigger reel and a heavier action rod. It's just going to weigh a lot. This is very comparable to what I'm throwing on that spinning rod. Feels good, and for me, it's the perfect 1-2 punch, if you will, when it comes to the topwater baits. Now I'm going to break down these reels real quick and give you a little insight into them right now. Let me just get this hooked up and show you that stuff. Show you what's important. All right, here's two typical high quality reels with great reputations that come from Shimano. Now, let's start with the Stratic. This is the new Stratic FM. Here's some of the specs. You can see that that is a 6.4 gear ratio, and it picks up about 37 inches per handle turn. That's about where you want to be for topwater. It really is. That gives you plenty of speed. If you were to throw, and you got to take this with a grain of salt, folks. If you're using a Daiwa, if you're using, you know, a 13 fishing reel, whatever, so many of them vary in spool size. It's hard to say what they pick up, but 37 is a good rule. So pay attention to that on your reel boxes. And if you're like most people, they unpack, they unbox their reel, they put it on their rod, and they throw this away. At least get a catalog card and put it somewhere in the shop where you have a box and you kind of know this so that you can break your stuff out. You know, I kind of geek out over all this stuff. This particular reel, because this is the latest one, this is the latest iteration of the Stratic. This is the FM. It weighs about 8 ounces, 7.9. And as far as drag, it offers 20 pound of drag. That can be important at times, but typically you set your drag at maybe 25% or 30% of that, so max. And sometimes I don't even do that. But 6.4, so there you can get a good comparison when I pick up. Now on the bigger rods for me, I grew up throwing these Corrados. I grew up throwing the old green one, and I've got tons of Corrados in here. Now back in the day, I've got a bunch of Daiwas in here as well. But the Corrados for me have always been a great workhorse. Now I'm looking at this one. It is the 8.5 to 1. I'll show you some of the specs there. Okay, I don't know if you see them. It might be a little fuzzy. Set the camera on a new setting. But it offers only 11 pounds of drag. But again, I'm using a lot of thumb when I'm using casting reels. It weighs 7.8 ounces for that 200 size Corrado. So very similar, a little lighter than the spinning reel. And then it picks up 36 inches of line. So basically, those are why I use those two rods as topwater rods. Now, you draw your own conclusions, because I get a lot of comments about, well, you speak so brand specific about, you know, the actual lures, the actual rods, the actual reels. It doesn't take you any time at all to correlate this stuff into your own gear. You know, whether you're loyal to Penn or loyal to Quantum Zebco or Daiwa or Shimano, it doesn't matter. You pick up, or Johnny Morris's Bass Pro version, XPS, whatever price point suits you. But I'm telling you what I like, what I enjoy, what I found that has worked fantastic for me for topwater fishing. And if you pay attention to this stuff, it will make it much easier to work the lures, and that walking cadence will be so much more comfortable for you. And then you'll be able to execute the hook sight and the hook set and the actual catch much easier when you're using the right equipment. How many times have we talked about rod to lure balance? And this is just one of the things that epitomizes it when it comes to topwater fishing.